I realized no matter how comfortable I was with him or, you know, how much I thought he loved me, he just kept on getting more and more abusive.
The attack sent Jenna to the hospital and into hiding. Shortly after 11 o'clock this morning, deputies with the Lucas County Sheriff's Office arrested Montrese Hughes, who's 29. He's now facing a charge of domestic violence. While she's waiting for the court proceedings, Jenna has a message for others who may be in a similar situation.
It's not worth going back, no matter how much you think the person loves you or how comfortable you are there. You need to expect, if they put their hands on you the first time, then it's going to keep happening. It's only going to get worse.
Jenna says she's now getting help from her family and several agencies and organizations. She is right now focusing on the safety.
Hey ladies, welcome back to Empowering Women and Impacting Lives channel. And today we are going to talk about several different types of domestic violence. There's different forms and different types of domestic violence. And as women, we need to be aware of the different types of domestic violence. We also need to be aware of, as women, domestic violence is not just between a husband and a wife or a boyfriend or girlfriend, like it was back in the past, years ago, back in the 50s. Domestic violence was very narrow and like really one or two very specific things. You know, domestic violence was very narrow and only within the household. Right now, today, domestic violence can happen outside the household. It's very broad now. Domestic violence is a lot of different things, you know. It's not just between a husband and wife no more, or girlfriend and boyfriend. The root of domestic violence is someone trying to exert power and control over you. Okay. Someone trying to establish and maintain power and control over you. So, again, I just want women to understand that domestic violence is not just like a man beating you and blacking your eyes out or hitting you or something like that. Domestic violence is that plus a lot of more different other things. And we are going to talk about some of the different types of domestic violence in this video. Okay. So let's go ahead on and move on. One of the different types of domestic violence is physical abuse. And physical abuse is one of the most known forms of domestic violence. It can be punching, hitting, slapping, grabbing, pushing, shoving, pinching, biting, hair pulling, forcing alcohol or drug abuse on a person, withholding a person's physical needs like sleep or food, or withholding medical care and attention from someone. Okay, this is one of the most popular forms of domestic violence, but this is definitely not the only one. Definitely not the only type of domestic violence. The next type of domestic violence I want to talk about is verbal abuse. Verbal abuse is one of the forms of domestic violence. Verbal abuse is a type of mental and emotional abuse that uses words or behaviors to invoke fear or to gain control over another person. Some examples of verbal abuse includes, but is not limited to, name calling, threatening, putting you down, yelling, insults, intimidation, criticizing, degrading, manipulating, blaming. A man or a woman talking down to you, that's verbal abuse. you know. It's just, it's part of verbal abuse. And it can happen in or out of the household. Okay. Another type of domestic violence is sexual abuse. Sexual violence and abuse is any behavior thought to be of a sexual nature, which is unwanted and takes place without consent. Sexual abuse is also forcing or attempted to force any sexual contact or behavior without consent. Sexual violence and abuse can be physical, psychological, verbal, or online. Any behavior of a sexual nature that causes you distress is considered sexual violence or abuse. Sexual abuse includes, but is not limited to, marital rape, attacks on sexual parts of the body, forcing sex on a person after physical violence has occurred, or treating someone in a sexually demeaning way. This is all sexual abuse. All, unwanted sexual behavior, and it can happen in a marriage. In a marriage or outside of a marriage. In a marriage, it's called marital rape. Okay, this is another form of domestic violence. Emotional abuse is another type of domestic violence. Emotional abuse and psychological abuse are kind of the same. I'm going to talk about both of them in this PowerPoint, in this video, PowerPoint video. Emotional abuse involves controlling behavior to have power over another person by using words or actions to embarrass, demean, shame, blame, criticize, berate, and instill fear to manipulate and tear down the victim's self-esteem. Anytime you're dealing with a man who's trying to break you, trying to break your self-esteem, trying to break your self-confidence, you are in a domestic violence situation, and you're being emotionally abused. The goal of this type of abuse is to control the victim by discrediting, isolating, and silencing them. Some examples of emotional abuse includes, but is not limited to, constant criticism, name calling, extreme jealousy, accusations threatening a person's safety, monitoring and controlling a person's behavior, isolating a person from family and friends, gaslighting. And gaslighting is when a person uses psychological manipulation to try to make a person question their own sanity. Okay. This is all emotional abuse, all part of domestic violence. Economic abuse, okay, is also a part of domestic violence, and it's also known as financial abuse, and is a form of domestic violence, like I just said. Okay. Economic abuse involves an abuser controlling their partner or ex-partner's money and finances. When a man is controlling your money, that is a part of economic abuse. A man or whoever, man or a woman, or whoever is trying to control your money. It could be a man or a woman. Okay. So they won't be able to support themselves. Okay. It involves a person controlling your money, so you won't be able to support yourself financially, and you will have to depend totally on the abuser for financial support. That's the whole part of them controlling you, controlling your money. Some examples of economic abuse includes, but is not limited to, preventing a victim from working. A man or a woman or whoever you in a relationship with, they don't want you to go to work. They don't want you to go to school. Okay. So you can become financially dependent on their money, on the abuser. And so the abuser can control you, forcing the victim to give the abuser money. Okay. This is also a part of economic abuse. Okay. When the abuser tries to force you to give them money, debit or credit cards, control over how and when finances are spent. Okay, let's go back up here a little bit when it talks about forcing the victim to give the abuser money. Okay, forcing you to give money, that's that pimp shit. Okay, that's that pimp shit. Man, a man or woman forcing you to give them money. You know, debit or credit cards, control, forcing when the abuser is forcing you to give them money or your debit or credit card. Okay, controlling over how and when finances are spent. They control they're controlling the money. You know, for example, if they tell you to keep your credit cards or tell you to keep your money in a certain place or tell you to do this, they're controlling your money. That's what that's part of economic abuse. Control, so they, can have that power over you. Control over how and when finances are spent or how and when they can use bank accounts, credit or debit cards, preventing access to bank accounts, coerce debt, etc. I only named a few examples, but telling you when you can and can't use your own bank account, preventing access to your own bank account. Come on, folks. This is totally economic abuse. You need to be in control of your own money, women. You need to be in control of your own money. A lot of this goes on, and you don't let a man have power over your money or your bank accounts. Okay, so economic abuse, that's also a part of domestic violence. Psychological abuse is abusive behavior that is also a part of domestic violence. It aims to cause emotional or mental harm. Psychological abuse causes fear by intimidation. Psychological or mental abuse is typically characterized by distorting someone's sense of reality. This is also called gaslighting. The goal of the psychological abuser is to convince the victim that they are crazy. Psychological and emotional abuse is similar in a lot of ways. Some examples of psychological abuse include that are not limited is embarrassing you in public, threatening to harm you, your pets or your children, family or friends, or isolating you from family and friends. These are all types of psychological abuse. Technological abuse is also a form of domestic violence that involves controlling behavior by the use of technology that is intended to harm, coerce, stalk, harass, threaten, exploit, extort, or monitor another person using technology. Some examples of technological abuse includes, but are not limited to, sending abusive texts, emails, social media messages, tracking your location, spying on you, monitoring or stalking someone through any type of surveillance device, such as a tracking system or spyware, sharing intimate photos of someone without their consent, sometimes called revenge porn. This is all part of technological abuse, which is a part of domestic violence now. And you guys understand when I first came on here and was talking about the different forms of domestic violence and how domestic violence was a few specific things way years ago, you know, way back in the past. Now it's all this now, you know, all this and more, you know. But I didn't name every single last one of them, but I just wanted to give you some examples. The next one, spiritual abuse is another form of domestic violence. And this one, a lot of people don't even know about this being a part of domestic violence. I didn't even know about this till I did my research. Spiritual abuse is when someone uses spiritual, religion, faith, or beliefs to exert power or control over you, to hurt, harm, or scare you. It can involve someone forcing you or your children to participate in spiritual or religious practices when you don't want to. Okay, some examples of spiritual abuse is using scriptures or beliefs to control, humiliate, or embarrass you, forcing you to give money you don't want to give, using scriptures or beliefs to force you to have sex, making you feel pressured or obligated to do things against your will, using religious texts or beliefs to justify abusive behaviors. Let's talk about this a little bit. Because there's a lot of spiritual abuse happening in a lot of churches. Not all churches, but a lot of this is happening in a lot of churches and a lot of religious organizations, okay? That's not churches, okay? Using scriptures or beliefs, you know, to control, humiliate, or embarrass you. You know, these pastors and apostles and prophetesses, you know, bishops, you know, first ladies, getting behind a pulpit, you know, talking about people in the congregation, talking about celebrities at conferences and stuff, getting behind the pulpit, or if you're at a conference, you know, they getting up on stage, you know, talking about celebrities, putting celebrities down, embarrassing, humiliating people. And they don't just have to be celebrity, they can be regular, you know, average, everyday working people. This happens a lot in the church. It's not right. It's not right. A lot of pastors getting behind the pulpit, apostle, bishop, whatever, and calling people out, you know, embarrassing people, humiliating people in front of crowds of people, or humiliating and embarrassing people in front of thousands of people, you know. Prophetess and prophets and prophetess getting up at conferences, you know, calling out celebrities and humiliating and embarrassing celebrities, you know, or putting celebrities down, you know, because they got money, you know. And a lot of that is jealousy. Along with that, we're going to talk about that in another video, but it's not right for pastors and apostles. It's not right for them to be getting behind a pulpit and putting down these celebrities. You know, you're supposed to be talking about God and whatever religion you serve in, you know, or whatever God you serve. You're supposed to be talking about God. That pulpit or conference stage is not supposed to be used to put people down and to talk about people and humiliate people, embarrass people. You know, it's not supposed to be used for that. And I just really am against that. I just don't think it's right. I don't think it's right, you know. And that's not going to lead people, you know, if you are Christian, that's not going to lead these people You getting behind the pulpit, putting these celebrities down and all this stuff, that's not going to lead them to Jesus Christ. That's going to send them further away from him. You standing up talking about people, putting people down in a pulpit. That's not what the pulpit's for. Y'all supposed to be talking about God, not embarrassing people and humiliating people. You know, we all have sinned and fall short of the glory of God. Nobody perfect just because you're a Christian. And that's what's wrong with a lot of these churches. You think because you're a pastor, you're an apostle, you're above sin. Yeah, you living a perfect life. Your life ain't perfect. You know, you got the blood of Jesus to cover your sin, but your life is not perfect. It's not right. This really bothers me. This is not right. Use the pulpit or a conference stage to talk about people and put celebrities down and humiliate people. It's not right. It's not right. Another subject I want to touch on is spiritual abuse, using the scriptures or using beliefs to force you to have sex with them. A lot of pastors and spiritual leaders, not just pastors, spiritual leaders or leaders in positions of authority, they do this too. A lot of leaders in different religious organizations outside of Christianity do this. And Christians, pastors and apostles and stuff, they do this stuff, you know, trying to use the scriptures or beliefs to force women to have sex with them and talking about, oh, the Bible says submit. You know, one thing about God I learned is God don't operate in control. You know, the God of Christianity, he don't operate in control. You know, that's Satan's kingdom. He don't operate. And then so when a person try to use a scripture to force you to have sex with them, you automatically know that's not the spirit of Christ. That's not his spirit. You know, I've heard different stories of pastors or leaders in the pulpit telling women to submit, forcing those scriptures on them women and trying to force them to have sex with them, using that to try to take advantage of women, to force sex on women. You know, talking about you supposed to submit. So they think that submitting is doing whatever they tell you to do. No, no, that's not what God was talking about in the Bible. You know, it's not talking about control. Pastor, you know, controlling your body and all that stuff, and you know, doing whatever a pastor tell you to do, and yeah, it's not talking about that. And I'm gonna get into that in another video, but I kind of want to stay on track here. um, but using scriptures or beliefs to force you to have sex, no. And the first thing they're gonna say, you're a woman, you're supposed to submit. You're supposed to, women are supposed to be submissive and this and that. I don't have to sleep with you. My Bible ain't telling me I gotta sleep with you because you a pastor or a leader of a religious organization. I ain't gotta sleep with you. I ain't gotta have sex with you. You ain't gotta have sex with no man just because he in a leadership position in a church or outside the church or whatever religious organization he in. You gotta sleep with him. Okay. Then they'll try to, okay, let's go back here. They'll try to use the scriptures or beliefs to force you to have sex, making you feel pressured or obligated to do things against your will. Then using religious texts or beliefs to justify abusive behaviors. Just what I was talking about. Just what I was just talking about. you know, trying to use that scripture. You're supposed to submit, uh-huh, and all that, using that to justify their abusive behaviors. Okay? That's not right. It's spiritual abuse, women. It's spiritual abuse. Spiritual abuse. Regardless if it's a woman or a man, it doesn't, it's spiritual abuse. It's abuse. And a lot of pastors and bishops, apostles, whatever their title is, probably don't even know that this is part of abuse because they so used to doing it. They don't, a lot of people, they're abusive and don't even know it, you know? And some of these people, well, such and such did this to me, so I'm doing it like this. And then it's a pattern, But no, you have to stand up. This is spiritual abuse. Try to make you feel pressured or obligated to have sex with them. Then they want to try to use scriptures and texts to justify their abusive behavior. Come on. It's not of God. It's spiritual abuse. Spiritual abuse. Anybody who try to make you do something against your will, regardless if it's sex, giving money, whatever the case may be, and it's, in a like a church setting or even outside of church setting, but right now we're talking about spiritual abuse. It's in a religious organization setting. It's part of spiritual abuse. It's part of spiritual abuse. We have a free will and we have a will to choose. No one should be taking our power of choice. You understand that, women? Excuse me. You understand that, women? We have the power of choice. No man or, should be taking that power of choice away from us. Okay? Don't let these men try to use scriptures and to try to slip in and try to have sex with you. I had somebody that I worked with, and he just swear up and down that, he was so into God and a Christian. Every time you see him, he quoting scriptures or talking about God, God this, God that, and then, he started to make me feel uncomfortable because he kept coming upstairs, and I'm like, man, I'm busy trying to work, and it ain't that much God in the world to talk about. And I wasn't interested in him at all, and then he started getting real aggressive, start following me around and all this stuff, and start asking me about my whereabouts. He was trying to hold power over me. And sooner or later, if I didn't go to HR, he was going to try to he was going to either try to do something to me or force me to do something, against my will. Then he would have turned around and tried to justify it with scriptures or text, or so thank God nothing happened as far as him forcing me to do anything. But the thing is, women's intuition, you have that intuition, that's why I had intuition. Wait a minute, this brother coming upstairs too much. This is my department. He coming up there too much. And it ain't that much God to talk about in the world, and I wasn't interested at all. I got to the point where I start avoiding him. He, I knew the time he would come upstairs, I go the other direction before he even get there, But I still went to HR and complained or whatever. And this didn't happen in church, but it's still, it's along the lines of spiritual abuse because, he called himself a preacher. He called himself a preacher with a church. He talking about God, this and that and that. You know what I'm saying? Man, get out of here. Get out of here. Get out of here. Then come to find out, and then I'm gonna end it with this story here. And then come to find out he had a record for rape. Okay? Get thee behind me, Satan, okay? Upstairs trying to follow somebody around. I know God telling you to stop or something. You that spiritual, the way he was claiming. And see, people like him that try to pretend like they so spiritual, so into God and so spiritual and so holy, them the main ones you got to stay away from. Them the main ones. Okay, women, let's move on. I'm trying not to make the video too long. Spiritual abuse can be committed by a pastor, bishop, apostle, evangelist, prophet, spiritual advisor, mentor, or any other religious leader who has a leadership position in any religious setting. Spiritual abuse can also be committed. It can be committed by a husband, wife, lover, friend, boyfriend, girlfriend, parents, relatives, etc. Anybody who trying to exert power and control over you, and anybody who trying to use scriptures to try to control you, or anybody who trying to use God to have you do things against your will. Using scriptures, using beliefs, using God to have you do things against your will. It's spiritual abuse. And it may not happen in church. It can happen outside of church. Okay. So let's move on. Here's the references. If you all want to look up some of this information for yourself. Women, if you or someone you know is in a domestic violence relationship, contact the National Domestic Violence Hotline, 1-800-799-SAFE, which is 1-800-799-7233. Again, 1-800-799-7233. Contact the National Domestic Violence Hotline. If you or someone you know is in a domestic violence situation, if you're in a really, really detrimental situation where you need to leave, you need to go to contact the authority, contact the local law enforcement, contact the police. I'm pretty sure they have, the police in your area has resources on domestic violence shelters or and other resources that they can help you and support you in your situation. All right, women, that is it for this video. Again, we were talking about the different types of domestic violence. I will be covering other issues on domestic violence. And if you want to know more or see more videos on domestic violence, please subscribe to my channel, Empowering Women and Impacting Lives. And until next time, women, I will see you in the next video.
Bruise you gave me for every time I sat in tears, for the million ways you hurt.